2 years ago, I was 15 years old, sitting in an emergency room while staring at a questionable x-ray featuring a huge white cloud on my shin bone. Me and my mom were anxious to get an answer. Turns out the answer was right in front of me the whole time. I wish I had known that my body needed way more fuel to stay strong before I joined my first ever sport. It's safe to say that I've learned a lot about my body and my body's needs for its basic functions, but most importantly, I've learned to forge a strong sense of resilience, even when the odds were against me. In December 2023, I tried out for track and field with a friend. Long story short, if it weren't for her, I wouldn't be standing here and telling you this story, so a big thanks to her. Tryouts went horribly, and I cried when I left. I felt hopeless, thinking that I had blown my chance at joining my first ever sport. A week later, a miracle occurred, and I was let on the team. At the very moment when I saw my name on the official roster, my eyes widened and I jumped around the whole house telling everyone about the exciting news. I was so excited because I finally had my first sport. I felt like I had struck gold. I had a sport that I could call mine. The team captain at the time had made my transition into this new sport really smooth. She hadn't joined any other sport just like me before entering running, which made it easier to connect with her and make friends through her. I was very quickly welcomed into the community through inside jokes, selfies, and conversations. I felt like I belonged. In terms of practices, I was incredibly consistent with the training all throughout the winter and preseason. Although it was scary at first, I had eventually created my own support system with the girls that had joined at the same time as me. Together, we learned to thrive under the pressure of the sport. The biggest thing that I learned throughout my first track season was that trying new things is incredibly intimidating. But what determined how I felt about trying these new things was how I reacted to their confrontation. If I had given up on just trying to engage with the training program, then I would have felt like I wasted my time and my coach's time. But I didn't. I faced the training head on because I knew that despite all my doubtful thoughts, I knew that if I did everything in my power to just try, I could see what I could do throughout the season. This track season, I made a lot of friends. And throughout the training sessions with my coaches, I was honest about how I felt before, during, and after with them. They'd help me and support me every step of the way. When trying new things, sometimes you need a guide to help you through it. And thankfully, that's what my coaches were for me. During my first track season, they helped me a lot. And I learned a lot through the resilience and all that they've showed me. So during my first track season, it was about time that my sophomore year came, and I was scared about how I would perform and if I would even like cross country, since summer came and we had trained really intensely during the summer. And during the summer, I had learned that even though I didn't want to get up for practice every morning at 8 a.m., I had learned that I just reflected on what I wanted. I wanted to grow my body stronger. I wanted to get good at this sport, and I wanted to stay on the team because of the uplifting and resilient community that we all shared. This was the first moment where I experienced my first taste of resilience. I had learned and found that within all of my weaknesses and strengths, I had the strength that outpowered both of those things. And this strength was powered by believing in myself and in my goals. You will encounter an instance like this in plenty of ways in your life, where you're scrolling through a study guide, wondering if you'll score high enough to keep your desired grade, or maybe you're warming up for a game hoping it'll go the way you want it to. What all of these instances have in common is the opportunity to embrace your full potential and to become the best version of yourself. This is what I learned during the summer. The next week that was after our second invitational, the annual Woodbridge race, which had went so well, I had been the fourth fastest girl on the team so far, which had showed me that this was the right sport. I felt truly rewarded. And my fear on the starting line was always aided by my teammates. We'd all forged a strong bond with one another and that's so important to have in a team sport, but in any relationship in your life as well. So the week after the annual Woodbridge race that went so well, I developed lingering pain and swelling on my right shin bone. I had decided to ignore it for a month. I ignored it for that long and it only got worse. So throughout this time, I only saw the future of what could have been my success in the sport slipping away from me. So I had struggled to move my legs because I was constantly in excruciating pain. So throughout this time, I only saw, what could have been my success, and I felt devastated. I was absolutely scared of what it was and scared of what came next. So I finally had enough, and I went to the emergency room to try to find out what this pain could be. The doctor informed me and my mom of a concerning white cloud in the x-ray and suggested an MRI to rule out the possibility of a cancerous tumor. I had so much anxiety over this news, and my doubts and fears seemed to consume my mind, and I felt lost. That was until I received my MRI results back at a visit with an orthopedic doctor, where she told me that I had a stress fracture in my right shin bone. This news completely relieved me of my worry, and I felt so much better about how I felt before, and I was really grateful that I had remained in good health. I had to spend several months away from my sport that had quite literally become my social life and where I could truly push myself. I learned something hard. Pushing through pain doesn't make you stronger. Listening to your body does. Throughout this injury, I had never broken a bone in my body prior to this injury. So wearing a cast and a boot over the course of the next few months was scary to me. And at home, my parents told me to quit the sport to prevent any other injury from occurring again. So not only did I face doubts of my own, but doubts from my family too. At practice, I faced imposter syndrome, where while everyone else was running their personal best, I was left behind in a huge cast or boot while watching on the sidelines. This broke down my confidence by a lot. I felt discouraged, and I asked myself if I could ever return to the same level of fitness that I was at before my injury. My teammates and coaches were supportive, and I learned that external support goes a long way, but I've learned that external support can help a lot, but it can only go a long way. So during this time, I learned that the real support that gets you ahead is the support that you give yourself. And for me, the support that I gave myself was through believing that despite my doubts, worries, and fears, I was capable of being resilient because I knew that if I did everything in my power to recover, then nothing could stop me from running again. So throughout this time, I took action and embraced my resilient mindset. I cycled hard, and I bought supplements and changed so much in my life because of this injury, and it only made me stronger. So throughout this time, I learned that I did a lot the past school year during my recovery, and this had jump-started my progress while getting back into running. I had learned that throughout my recovery, I had jump-started my progress so that the summer before my junior year, I had the best turnout possible. I had run times during my workouts that had been unexpected, especially after my debilitating injury. I had learned so much from this injury, and I was so grateful for what it helped me to learn and for how it helped me grow. It showed me how to stay calm when confronted with situations that are out of my control. For example, the weather, college admissions, the past, and the time. I had learned that throughout this injury, I learned to confront situations that had helped me grow in ways I didn't know I could before. So the next time that your life or injury, there's some sort of unexpected injury or news that seems impossible to navigate and handle, remember that the resilience that you need resides in not pushing through the pain, but knowing when to stop, recover, and believe that you can rebuild and come back stronger. This was the most valuable lesson that I learned from my injury that stuck with me, and I'm hoping that it'll stick with you too. So to end, I want to thank my coaches and parents that have stuck with me all throughout this process. I'm really grateful for them. Thank you.